Welcome everyone to this detailed explainer. If you absolutely love breaking down complex, ancient concepts into clear, structured frameworks, well, you are in the exact right place today. We're looking at a fascinating source document that presents a highly mechanical, scientific view of something that's usually considered purely mystical, mantras. But right off the bat, this text asks us to completely shift our perspective. It tells us that words are not just empty sounds fading into the air, they are actual physical matter. Let's look at what that really means. Okay, let's dive into this. Are ancient mantras actually like modern radar? That is exactly where the source material takes us. It challenges us to look at ancient syllables not as mere poetry or religious singing, but as a highly mechanical, subtle science. The text argues that the way these ancient mantras function is shockingly similar to how we use modern technology to map and manipulate the world around us. Now, to ground this somewhat abstract idea of word power into reality, the author points to a very famous cultural anecdote from the Indian epic, the Mahabharata. According to the text, a few slight insulting words spoken by Draupadi acted as a massive energetic force, literally triggering an epic war. The source uses this to show us that everyday speech isn't passive at all. It's an active substance that physically impacts the nervous systems and the emotions of others. And we see this in our own daily lives, right? The author uses this to illustrate how vocal vibrations literally alter human dynamics and shape our reality. Sweet words have the physical capacity to win allies out of enemies, while harsh words instantly create resistance and trigger intense anger. By understanding this everyday phenomenon, that speech has a very tangible impact, the manuscript sets the perfect stage for us to understand the amplified, highly engineered power of mantras.
Part 1. Acoustic Mechanics, the Sitar and the Typewriter.
The text breaks down the act of chanting using the analogy of a typewriter and a sitar, which is a traditional stringed instrument. Think about a typewriter. Pressing specific keys guarantees specific letters will print. Or a sitar. Placing your fingers on specific strings in a specific order creates distinct musical waves. According to the author, mantras work the exact same way. When you vocalize specific ancient sequences, using precise pronunciations from your palate, teeth, and lips, you are essentially pressing the keys to your own internal nervous system. These vocal vibrations travel inward to activate subtle human power centers, like the chakras and internal glands, to awaken dormant potential.
Part 2. The Modern Tech Bridge, Radar.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the explicit comparison the source makes to modern radar technology. Radar, or radio detection and ranging, relies on sending out radio waves at roughly 295,000 kilometers per second. These waves travel out into the atmosphere, bounce off solid objects like ships, planes, or storms, and return in microseconds to reveal hidden realities. The text explains that sound waves work in a very similar way, bouncing off objects to create echoes. Building on that, the author claims that the human body actually contains its own internal radar system. When activated by the specific acoustic science of mantras, we send out subtle acoustic waves into the universe. Just like a radar pings a hidden ship, these mantras ping the subtle environment to detect opportunities, manipulate circumstances, and even affect specific people from a distance. It's presented as a literal technology of the subtle world. To prove that this is a raw science and not just art, the text points to the number 23. This is the exact number of syllables in the famous ancient Gayatri mantra. Now, according to strict rules of ancient poetic meter, a verse like this absolutely must have 24 syllables. So, from a literary perspective, it has a glaring error. But the text states that this proves the point perfectly. The architects of these mantras didn't care about poetic correctness. They prioritized raw acoustic power. The phonetic formula of those 23 syllables is scientifically flawless for generating the required energy, even if it breaks the rules of poetry. Part 3. Human hardware, the three bodies.
So the crucial point here is that the mantra is entirely useless without the proper internal human hardware. The author argues that chanting a mantra is not just some magic spell. It requires the absolute alignment of three mandatory layers of the human being, known as the three bodies.
First up is the gross body, which is our physical form. The text mandates strict physical discipline here, things like proper diet, fasting, celibacy, and physical rituals. This establishes the baseline physical energy. Second is the subtle body, which encompasses the mind and intellect. Here, the source requires the practitioner to maintain pure thoughts, immense self-control, a high moral character, and a spirit of generosity. Basically, if your mind is chaotic or malicious, the radar simply won't calibrate correctly. But it's the third layer, the causal body, that acts as the ultimate power source.
This is the realm of the inner heart and emotion. The manuscript insists that this layer requires deep faith, profound devotion, and absolute immersion in the practice. If you are chanting a mantra mechanically with a distracted, doubtful, or bored mind, just treating it like a hollow chore, the text explicitly states that a vital component is missing and the practice will be a complete failure.
Part 4. The gun and cartridge principle. And this brilliantly illustrates how the acoustic formula and the human hardware work together. Think of a marksman trying to hit a target. The text compares the practitioner, with their perfectly aligned physical, mental, and emotional bodies, to a high-quality, perfectly engineered gun. The correctly chanted mantra, with its precise acoustic science, is the high-quality cartridge or bullet. You can have a perfect bullet, but if the gun is broken, it won't fire accurately. Conversely, a great gun is useless with a dud bullet. You need both the flawless internal hardware and the perfect acoustic software to hit the target with guaranteed scientific precision. Part 5. Vok, the cosmic word. Let's zoom out to the macro level for a second. In the ancient texts known as the Upanishads, this supreme power of speech is referred to as Vok. The text references the Prashnopanishad, which describes Vok not just as human words, but as an immense physical force in the universe. It states that just as rivers rise from the sea, the energetic waves of Vok move like a massive ocean. The text treats it as an objective, undeniable force of nature.
Let's move to the next slide and see how this builds into an even grander cosmic claim. The source references ancient scriptures stating that before creation, the creator deity Prajapati was completely alone. His only wealth, his only tool was Vok, the cosmic word. The text presents the subtle technology of sound as the literal tool used to engineer and create the entire universe. Ultimately, the source concludes that Vok is the true deity and the ultimate architect of reality. And the final claim made by the author brings this all back down to a practical application. Mastering the subtle acoustic science of mantras and perfectly aligning your three bodies to utilize it is presented as being equally as powerful, beneficial, and rewarding as any modern material advancement. The knower of Vok, the text promises, becomes victorious. We've seen how this text completely redefines speech, from the everyday interactions that can start wars or build friendships, to the precise phonetic science that acts like a subtle radar, all the way to the cosmic force of creation itself. It leaves us with a profound realization about the immense physical weight of the sounds we produce. So, taking all this structured ancient science into account, I'll leave you with this question. If words truly possess the mechanical power to shape the universe, what reality are you building with yours today?